This is a Zeiss SL-120, and this new style has a circuit board with it, and the rheostat is different, whereas the old style has just a plain terminal block and wires, and the rheostat is bigger. So something's wrong with this unit. I don't know. It could be anything on the circuit board. It could be the rheostat. It could be anything. So we don't have any of those parts right now. We don't have any circuit boards or this type of rheostat. So we're going to convert this to a non-circuit board unit. We have some extra parts. We have some other Zeiss. We have a Zeiss SL-120 that's got a rheostat on it. And I'll look at the terminal block. I could just switch it with a regular SL-120, this configuration. But it's fairly simple diagram. You have the power supply, which is 3 wires, a hot, a neutral, and a ground. And sometimes there are different colors, but this one happens to be brown, and it's positive, and it's going to the rheostat. And then from the rheostat, it's going to the bulb. And the other side, the neutral, is going straight to the bulb. So it's not a lot of circuitry or connections. So whatever it takes to connect these together, that's probably all you would need to do. So you could, I guess you could, if you didn't have any terminal blocks to join things, you could just crimp the wires together. That would be one way of doing it, even soldering to get them together. But on both styles, you have your line coming in from the power supply coming in, and it does its configurations, and then it goes down to the rheostat and comes back up, and then it goes through its circuitry and then goes back to the wire up to the bulb, whereas in the other wire goes straight to the bulb. But on the old style, you have your wire coming in, your hot jumping over to the rheostat, this terminal block, these are together, it goes down to the rheostat and comes back up, connects here across this terminal block, and then jumps to the other side of this terminal block, and then goes up to the bulb, and then the other side of the bulb, the other 2 wires, they connect to this side of the terminal block, and then they jump over here to the neutral side of, or the minus side of your power supply, and then it goes to the power supply. So it's fairly simple. So if you were just to crimp things, or if you had a terminal block, you could join them all together. But this, I think, is the configuration. And you're looking at your plug, if you're curious, taking it apart. As you can see, the red is really the ground, and it's going to be the middle pin. And then your black and your brown, depending on how you... Here's this plastic piece, guide, and on the right side is going to be the black neutral, and on the left side is going to be the brown hot. So if you wanted to know that's how it would be. So I have an extra 20 SL Zeiss. So here's my 20 SL slit lamp, and it has basically an old style rheostat, so I'm going to use that, see if it'll fit in here. And then it has some terminal blocks. I may or may not use that. We'll see. And so we'll see if this will work. If it doesn't, then I'll have to take it off of another SL-120. As you can see on the new style, the rheostat has a very small diameter, and the old style has a big one. So I had to make this hole bigger so that the old style rheostat will fit in here, and use a step bit and just see how far I went down into that hole, and then did the same thing into this hole. But then on the rheostat, it's got a little stop edge, and on the old plate it had a little extra spot for that stop to go in and keep the rheostat from turning. So I had to do the same thing on here. It had 3 dots, but I had to make this one a little bit fatter, deeper, so that it would accommodate this rheostat and fit flush. So if you do this, these are some steps you're going to have to take. So you might want to consider what you would have to do to make it work. It's not just a simple little trading of parts. You're going to have to do a little drilling and manipulating to get this rheostat to fit in. And I'm using the terminal block from the 20 SL, took it off. I think I can mount it onto this. We'll see. Okay, here's the final assembly. I used the terminal block off the 20 SL and put one screw into a hole that the circuit board was being held down with. Put a couple wire retainers underneath it to insulate the back of the terminal board, and just ran the wires in configuration according to the diagram. And here's the original setup of the SL-120, nice and neat. And here's the final product of the circuit board model. Now, I don't think it's reversible, because the rheostat, the hole for the rheostat in the new style is very, very small. If you were to try to put a new style rheostat in an old style top, the hole would be too big and it wouldn't really work. So it's not really reversible. But if you wanted to convert your circuit board to a non-circuit board, this is one way you could do it if you have a rheostat. So, in summary, if you wanted to convert a new style SL-120, which has a circuit board and the corresponding small rheostat, you can convert it to the old style that doesn't have a circuit board if you have some way to attach the wires with a terminal board or just connecting them together somehow, and some type of rheostat. Now this rheostat came off of a 20SL because they're both 6 volt 20 watt. So if you find another rheostat that will fit in those parameters, then maybe it'll work for you. So you might want to hook everything up, do a dry run before you start drilling out the plate of the new style, because once you drill it out bigger, then it's not going to fit the smaller diameter rheostat anymore. So I hope that helps out. I don't know if these parts, how long parts will be available, and I don't know if these work or not, but there'll be spare parts for me if I ever get another one and have issues. I might try either one of these, rheostat or circuit board. One of these might be good. And if I knew more about electronics, I could troubleshoot this board, but I don't. It could be these capacitors right here, could be bad, or something a little more simpler than I think, but I don't have that skill. Maybe you do, but I'm just glad that now we have a working unit put together with spare parts.